The sky above Earth was never silent anymore. On that day, when the first alien ships arrived, the world changed forever. They came like shadows made of metal, filling the sky, so huge that cities below were drowned in their darkness. Children screamed, mothers pulled their sons close, leaders of nations shouted at each other through radios and screens. But nothing stopped what was coming. The aliens spoke in 1,000 voices at once, their words blasting from the sky. Earth belongs to us now. Humans will serve. It was not a question, not even a demand. It was a declaration. They had enslaved dozens of worlds before, and Earth was only the next in their long chain. To them, humanity was nothing but another resource to control. Governments tried to respond, but missiles burned in the air before they could reach the ships. Jets rose into the sky, but they were torn apart by beams of white fire. Every weapon that had protected humans for centuries failed in minutes. People fell to their knees in terror, whispering that it was the end, the beginning of slavery. But among the chaos, one man stood differently. Captain Rylan, a soldier from Earth's defense forces, looked at the sky with steady eyes. He had seen battles before, he had lost comrades, but he had never seen anything like this. Yet inside him, there was no surrender, only a burning fire that whispered, "They can bleed, and if they bleed, they can fall." The first days were filled with fear. Cities like New York, Beijing, and London became prisons. Alien machines walked the streets like monsters, tall and silver, scanning every human face. Ships hovered above buildings, their shadows swallowing sunlight. People were herded, controlled, stripped of weapons, stripped of hope. But even then, the spirit of humans refused to die. Captain Rylan watched as small groups of soldiers and civilians resisted. They threw stones at armored giants. They set fire to alien patrols. They shouted, "Earth is ours." Most of them died, yet more and more stood up. It was madness, but it was also courage. Rylan knew something the aliens did not. Humans were not like other species. They came from a world of storms, wild beasts, burning deserts, freezing winters. They had always lived on the edge of survival. Pain and loss were not enough to break them. That was why they were called Deathworlders by those who truly studied them. And soon, the invaders would learn the meaning of that word. The alien leader, known as Varix, stood aboard the flagship and watched Earth with disgust. "These creatures are weak, yet stubborn," he hissed, his many eyes narrowing. "They resist, but resistance is nothing before our power." His lieutenants nodded, believing victory was already written. But cracks had begun to form, small but deadly. Rylan gathered survivors in secret places, tunnels, old bunkers, underground train stations. He spoke simple words, but they struck deep. "They want us on our knees, but we were not born to kneel. We were born to stand. We will not die silent. We will fight." And slowly, whispers of rebellion spread. Mothers told their children, farmers told their neighbors, soldiers told their broken units. In every corner of Earth, the fire of defiance began to burn. The aliens had won the skies, but not the hearts of humans. That was their first mistake. As night fell, the alien ships glowed like cold stars above the cities. But beneath that light, in the broken streets and shattered homes, a new promise was born. It was not spoken by governments, not shouted by leaders. It was carried in the quiet hearts of ordinary people. A single word that no alien could erase. Hope. Captain Rylan stood on a rooftop, watching the ships in the dark sky. His rifle was useless, his army was gone, but his spirit was iron. "They think Earth is already theirs," he whispered. "They are wrong." And with those words, the story truly began. The world had fallen silent under the shadow of alien ships. People whispered that resistance was madness, that humans had no chance. But even in silence, anger lived. And when anger grows, it becomes fire. The aliens thought they had broken Earth. They walked through the cities like kings, their armor glowing, their weapons humming with cold light. They took food, they took people, they crushed every army that tried to stand against them. But what they did not see was the small spark waiting to ignite. Captain Rylan knew time was short. The invaders were building control towers in every major city, black machines that pulsed with alien power. If those towers became active, Earth would fall completely. Humans would be tracked, controlled, enslaved, their spirits caged forever. That could not be allowed. In the ruins of an old subway tunnel, Ryland stood before a small group of survivors. There were soldiers with broken armor, engineers with grease on their hands, and even children holding stones. They had nothing compared to the invaders. Yet their eyes held fire. "Listen," Ryland said, his voice low but strong. "They think we are weak. They think we are finished. But we are not finished. We are just beginning." That night, under the broken lights of a ruined city, the humans launched their first strike. It was not a grand army, not a fleet of ships, only a handful of desperate fighters. They moved like shadows, slipping through alleys and broken buildings. Every step was dangerous. Every breath could be their last. The target was a control tower at the heart of the city. It stood like a black spear piercing the sky, its surface alive with strange energy. Alien guards surrounded it, machines with metal claws and eyes that glowed red. The humans had no heavy weapons, no missiles, only courage and stolen scraps of alien tech. The first blow came from a boy no older than 16. He carried a bomb made from broken alien rifles and human wires. With shaking hands, he threw it beneath a patrol machine. The explosion ripped the silence. Fire painted the night. The machine fell in pieces, its glowing eye fading to black. The aliens roared in anger, their voices echoing like thunder. But before they could react, Ryland's team attacked. Stones, knives, stolen pistols, even bare hands. Everything became a weapon. Humans fought like cornered beasts, wild and unbroken. They struck fast, they struck hard, and they did not stop. For the first time, the aliens bled. Their silver armor cracked. Their dark blood spilled onto Earth's soil. And when humans saw that, a new fire was born inside them. They realized the invaders were not gods. They were not unstoppable. They could be hurt. They could be killed. The battle was chaos. Flames swallowed streets. Alien weapons burned through walls. Humans screamed and kept fighting. Captain Ryland moved through the fire like a shadow, his rifle glowing with stolen alien rounds. Every shot he fired dropped another giant. Every strike pushed the enemy back. But he knew this was only the beginning. At last, they reached the base of the control tower. The black machine pulsed with a heartbeat of its own, humming like a living thing. Ryland planted the last explosive, his hands steady though the ground shook with alien rage. "Earth belongs to us," he whispered. And then the tower exploded. The shock wave tore through the city. Alien soldiers fell screaming. The sky above flickered as their machines faltered. For a moment, for the first time since the invasion began, Earth fought back. The people hiding in their homes saw the fire, heard the crash, and felt hope for the first time. They whispered to each other in the dark. Humans are fighting. Humans are winning. But victory came at a heavy cost. Many of Ryland's fighters lay broken on the ground, burned, bleeding, gone forever. The boy who threw the first bomb did not rise again. Yet his sacrifice burned brighter than any star. Because now the galaxy would learn. Humans do not kneel. Humans rise. High above, in the alien flagship, Varix slammed his claws against the control screen. "These creatures are dangerous," he growled, his many eyes burning with rage. "They are reckless, savage, impossible to control." His lieutenants shifted uneasily, fear in their alien hearts. For the first time, the masters of the galaxy had felt the sting of defiance. And down below, Captain Ryland looked at the ruins of the tower. Smoke and fire curled into the night sky. "We are not finished," he whispered. "This is only the first strike." The ruins of the control tower still smoked as dawn touched the horizon. For the first time, humans had destroyed alien technology. For the first time, the invaders bled. But Captain Ryland knew this was only a spark, and sparks must grow into fire. The aliens struck back with fury. Cities shook under bombardments, and whole districts were leveled to ash. Anyone caught near the ruins was taken or killed. The message was clear. Defiance would not be tolerated. But humans are not creatures that bend easily. When beaten, they learn. When crushed, they rise. And now, in the hidden places of the earth, resistance was born. Ryland traveled underground, moving through old sewer tunnels and broken subway tracks. He carried no flag, no badge of rank, but wherever he went, people gathered. Farmers offered food, engineers offered tools, children carried stolen parts of alien weapons. It was not an army, not yet. It was a movement. In an abandoned factory on the edge of the city, humans worked in silence. Tables were covered with alien rifles cracked open, wires spilling like veins. Scientists in torn coats studied the energy cells, their eyes burning with discovery. "We can use this," one whispered, holding up a glowing shard of alien metal. "It's dangerous, unstable," another warned. "But so are we," Ryland said, his voice firm. Day by day, scraps of alien technology were turned into human weapons. Blades that hummed with stolen power, rifles that spat beams of blue fire, grenades made from alien fuel cells. They were rough, unstable, sometimes exploding in the maker's hands. But they worked, and that was enough. The aliens did not expect this. Other worlds had fallen silent after conquest, broken and obedient. But Earth was different. Every attempt to crush humanity only made them sharper. Every death fueled their rage. The invaders began to whisper a word in fear. Deathworlders. One night, the resistance struck again. This time not in one city, but in many. Across Earth, hidden cells rose at the same moment. Factories burned, alien patrols were ambushed, power stations exploded. It was chaos, carefully planned chaos. And the galaxy's masters began to feel pressure they had never known before. Among the fighters was Mara, a medic who had lost her family in the first wave of attacks. She had never held a weapon before, but now she carried one of the stolen rifles. Her hands trembled when she aimed, yet her eyes never looked away. When an alien soldier cornered her, towering and armored, she fired. The beam cut through its chest, and the giant fell. For a moment, she stared in shock. Then she whispered, "We can win." News of the resistance spread like wildfire. It traveled through whispers, through scratched marks on walls, through stolen alien radios. People hiding in basements began to believe. People in prisons began to plan escapes. The world that had been silent was now roaring. Varix, aboard the flagship, watched the chaos with rising rage. "These humans are different," he hissed. "They do not break, they do not fear death." His generals warned that more resources were needed, more ships, more soldiers. But even they began to feel doubt. For every alien lost, 10 humans rose in their place. Ryland stood on the roof of the broken factory, looking at the night sky. Alien ships still glowed above, heavy and cold. But now Earth was alive beneath them, burning with rebellion. He knew this was only the beginning. The invaders thought they had enslaved another world. But instead, they had woken something unstoppable. And in the dark, humans whispered a new promise. "We will not kneel. We will not bow. We will rise. Until every alien kneels before us." The resistance was no longer whispers. It was fire, spreading from city to city. Every day the aliens lost patrols, towers, and machines. Every night, humans struck again, leaving wreckage behind. But Ryland knew victory would not come from small battles. The enemy had fleets of ships, armies of soldiers, and weapons that burned mountains. If humanity was to survive, they needed more than defiance. They needed proof that the masters of the galaxy could be beaten. That chance came one stormy night. Alien transports moved through the sky, carrying supplies to their stronghold in Europe. Ryland and his fighters waited in the ruins of an old airport. Rain poured down, lightning split the sky, and then the ships appeared, glowing like predators in the clouds. The resistance struck fast. Homemade rockets roared upward, stolen alien rifles spat fire. The transports shook. One fell blazing into the earth. The others opened their hatches, releasing soldiers of steel and flesh. The night became chaos, thunder and screams mixing together. Mara fought beside Ryland, her rifle flashing blue light. Each shot carved through alien armor. But the resistance was outnumbered. Their lines pushed back step by step. And then it happened. One of the alien commanders was captured alive. He was taller than any human, with skin like black stone and eyes burning yellow. Chains dug into his limbs as he was dragged into the underground hideout. He hissed words of contempt. "You think this changes anything? You are insects. You cannot win." But Ryland only stared at him with calm eyes. "We don't need to win yet. We only need to prove you can lose." For days, human scientists studied the captive and his gear. They learned the invaders were not invincible. Their armor could break. Their blood carried weakness. Their minds held fear. It was the proof humanity had been waiting for. And when news spread that an alien commander had been captured, hope erupted like fire across the world. Children drew pictures of broken aliens on crumbling walls. Families hiding in basements sang songs of defiance. Soldiers long thought lost returned to fight again. The galaxy's conquerors had bled, and humans had seen it. The myth of their invincibility was shattered. Varix raged aboard his flagship. How dare they? How can one world resist our empire? His generals bowed their heads in silence. Even they could not deny the truth. Earth was different. The captured commander broke at last. Under human pressure, under human will, he revealed secrets. Weaknesses in their technology, flaws in their weapons, blind spots in their ships. Every word became a blade for the resistance to use. And Rylan knew this was the moment the war changed. One night, he stood before his fighters, his voice echoing in the dark hideout. They thought we were slaves waiting for chains. But we are not slaves. We are hunters. We are fighters. And now we know their weakness. The crowd roared, fists raised, weapons shining in the dim light. For the first time since the invasion began, Earth was not only surviving. Earth was preparing to strike back. Above them, the alien fleet still filled the sky. But for the first time, the invaders felt something they had never known before. Not respect, not hatred. Fear. And Captain Ryland whispered into the night. This was their turning point, not ours. From now on, the hunters will become the hunted. The world had changed. The capture of the alien commander was more than a victory. It was a spark that lit a fire across Earth. Now, the resistance was not just hiding. It was fighting. With the secrets torn from the prisoner's mind, humans built new weapons. Crude, but deadly. Alien rifles rebuilt with human hands. Bombs made from stolen power cells. Even shields crafted from scraps of alien armor. Every factory ruin became a workshop. Every basement became a forge. But Rylan knew weapons were not enough. If they wanted to win, they needed the skies. For as long as alien ships ruled above, Earth would always be a cage. That was when the Resistance found it. A fallen alien transport hidden deep in the mountains. Its engines broken, its crew long dead. But its bones were intact. And Rylan saw more than wreckage. He saw hope. For weeks, engineers and mechanics worked day and night. They studied every wire, every circuit. They bled on metal, burned their hands, and starved as they worked. Until at last, the ship roared to life again. A stolen weapon, reborn for human hands. When the ship rose into the sky, humans cheered. For the first time since the invasion began, they had wings. Rylan named it Freedom's Flame. And in its heart, human fire burned brighter than any alien core. The first mission came quickly. A supply convoy moved across the Atlantic, escorted by alien warships. Rylan and his crew climbed aboard the stolen vessel. Their hands shaking, their breaths heavy. This was no longer resistance. This was war. As the convoy moved through the clouds, the stolen ship struck. Alien ships turned in shock, their sensors confused. One moment, it was a friendly vessel. The next, it spat fire into their hearts. Explosions painted the ocean with burning light. The battle was fierce. Alien weapons burned holes through the stolen hull. Alarms screamed, fire spread inside. But the humans refused to retreat. Mara, now a fighter as much as a medic, manned the weapons. Her eyes cold, her hands steady. Every blast she fired tore another invader apart. And then, the convoy fell. Supplies meant to crush Earth now belonged to the Resistance. Food, weapons, medicine. The people would live another day. The fighters would rise stronger. Word spread like a storm. Humans had not only fought back. They had stolen the sky. Other enslaved worlds heard the whispers. A species once unknown was fighting the galaxy's masters. And winning. Varix raged in his throne of steel aboard the flagship. These creatures are chaos. Every strike costs us more than we can count. They must be destroyed. But even as he roared, doubt gnawed at him. For never before had a conquered world turned the Master's own weapons against them. On Earth, the Resistance grew bolder. More ships were captured, more bases destroyed. The invaders no longer hunted humans. They were hunted. And every alien soldier who faced Earth whispered the same word with fear. Deathworlders. One night, as the stolen ships rested in a hidden valley, Rylan stood beneath the stars. He watched the alien fleet still shining above. But now he did not see masters. He saw prey. "This is only the beginning," he whispered. "They came to enslave us. But soon, we will break their chains. Not just for Earth, but for every world they have taken." And in the darkness, the promise spread. Humanity was no longer fighting to survive. Humanity was fighting to lead. The galaxy had begun to tremble. For centuries, the alien empire had ruled without question. World after world had fallen, their people enslaved, their voices silenced. But now whispers spread through the stars. A small blue planet called Earth was rising. Humanity's stolen ships moved like ghosts through space. Convoys burned, strongholds shattered, patrols vanished into silence. For every human lost, 10 more rose to fight. And the legend of the Deathworlders grew louder. On distant planets, enslaved species heard the tales that humans had captured alien ships, that humans had struck fear into the unshakable masters, and that humans did not kneel. For the first time in generations, hope returned to their hearts. Some began to fight in secret, sabotaging alien bases, refusing orders, sending signals of rebellion. Others openly rose, throwing down their chains. The Empire's grip loosened, and it was all because one world refused to bow. Captain Ryland knew this was the moment he had been waiting for. The resistance was no longer just Earth's. It was becoming the galaxy's. But the price of leadership was heavy. The invaders struck harder than ever. Cities burned, millions died. And still, humans fought. In the ruins of Berlin, Ryland led a desperate battle. Alien machines poured through the streets, their weapons tearing buildings apart. Mara and her fighters held the line. Smoke and ash filled the air. The ground shook with each explosion. Yet the humans did not break. Amid the chaos, allied voices joined them. A species once enslaved, with scales of silver and wings torn from use, rose to fight beside humans. Another, small and fragile, used their cunning to cut through alien systems. Together, they struck like a storm. And for the first time, the Empire's army faltered on Earth's soil. Varix watched from his flagship, his many eyes wide with fury. "They spread rebellion like a disease," he snarled. "Every slave becomes a soldier when humans arrive." His generals stood silent, because they knew he was right. The fear of humans had broken the chains of millions. The turning point came in orbit above the Earth. A massive fleet descended to crush humanity once and for all. It was larger than any armada ever gathered. Ships stretched across the horizon, a wall of steel and fire. It should have been the end. But Earth was ready. Ryland's fleet of stolen ships rose from the shadows of the planet. They were few compared to the enemy, but each one carried human will. The battle lit the skies. Beams of fire cut across the stars. Explosions tore holes in the night. Human ships burned. Alien ships shattered. The air filled with screams and roars. But slowly, against all odds, the wall began to break. Other enslaved fleets joined. Broken vessels once used to carry chains now turned their weapons against their masters. It was chaos, 1,000 worlds screaming for freedom. And in the middle of it all, humans led the charge. When the dust cleared, the invincible fleet was gone. Wreckage floated in the void. Ships burned in the sky like dying stars. The Empire had suffered its first true defeat. The fall had begun. On the ground, across alien worlds, people rose. Shackles were broken. Prisons stormed, banners of rebellion raised, and every voice shouted the same name. Human. Captain Ryland stood among the ruins of battle, his armor cracked, his face streaked with blood, but his eyes burned bright. "This is the fall of the masters," he whispered. "They came to enslave us, but now they kneel, and soon, the galaxy will be free." The galaxy was no longer the same. What once had been ruled by fear was now ruled by defiance. The empire that had enslaved hundreds of worlds was breaking apart, and at the center of it all stood humanity. On Earth, the skies were clear for the first time since the invasion. Wreckage of alien ships floated above like shattered stars. People walked freely in streets once ruled by machines. The planet had bled, it had burned, but it had not broken, and now it was stronger than ever. Across the stars, enslaved species declared their freedom. Chains were melted down into weapons. Prisons became rallying grounds. Songs of rebellion filled worlds that had been silent for centuries, and every voice carried one name with honor. Human. The Empire tried to hold on, Varix sent orders, screamed threats, unleashed his last fleets. But it was too late. Fear had turned against him. His soldiers hesitated, his slaves deserted, his generals whispered of surrender. The unstoppable empire had become fragile glass, and humanity's fist was the hammer. The final battle came not on Earth, but in the heart of the empire itself. Rylan led a fleet of humans and freed allies into the black void where the throne world waited. The alien capital, once untouchable, now trembled under fire. Shields shattered, towers fell, the sky itself burned with rebellion. On the ground, Rylan and his fighters marched through the Palace of Steel. Hallways lined with alien banners echoed with the footsteps of Deathworlders. At the throne, Varix stood, his many eyes glowing with rage and fear. "You cannot rule. You are chaos," he hissed. "You are death itself." Rylan stepped forward, his armor scarred, his voice steady. "We are death, yes, but we are also life. And today, life wins." The hall shook as Varix fell, not to a weapon, but to the weight of his empire collapsing around him. His generals knelt, his soldiers dropped their arms. And across the galaxy, the message spread like fire. The masters were no more. In the days that followed, envoys from alien worlds came to Earth. They did not come as rulers. They did not come as conquerors. They came on their knees, to bow before the people who had turned despair into victory. In the ruins of the old United Nations building, leaders from 100 species gathered, and in the center stood humanity, scarred but unbroken. For the first time in history, Earth was not a single world among many. It was the heart of a new age. Mara, once a medic, now a hero, spoke to the crowd. "They thought we were weak. They thought we were slaves. But we were never slaves. We are Deathworlders, and we will never kneel." The hall thundered with voices, alien and human together. Every knee bent, not in chains, but in respect. Every head lowered, not in fear, but in honor. Captain Rylan stood silent at the edge of the gathering, his eyes on the stars through the broken glass. He knew the fight was not truly over. The galaxy was vast, dangers endless. But now, no world would ever stand alone. Because humanity had shown the truth. They tried to enslave Earth. But now every alien kneels before humans.